while we're in this kind of hype curve of AI where it's going to solve everything, I think we're forgetting that there's still a human element that's so critical, whether it's proofing and validating what spits out of an AI tool is valid and accurate. Soft skills are becoming hard skills, and hard skills are becoming commoditized by AI. EQ and emotional intelligence and all the things around empathy and understanding another human's experience and being able to communicate effectively, that's what makes us human.
Tyler Plant, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from Sonoma County. Thank you so much for being with me today. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Michael. Excited to be here.
Really excited to have you here. Tyler, talking about human productivity, talking about organizations and create a positive impact in all those regards. And so let's dive right into it. What are we even talking about? What is the space that you're in?
Yeah, so I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Simplify, and I lead their sales, marketing, and customer success departments. And Simplify is a pioneering SaaS-based company that integrates psychology, neuroscience, and technology. And an individual's journey starts with our 5 dynamic starting point assessment. And it really equips individuals and teams with practical tools and approaches to help them navigate a rapidly changing world. Specifically around the social and professional dynamics within a team. It's no surprise, you read the news, we're in the age of AI. And one of the things that one of our tenets is, while that's great, while we're in a transformative human kind of period in which we're emerging into a new age, what's not being as talked about is the human element in this age of AI. And so what we do is we help teams be better. And my journey with the 5 Dynamics methodology actually goes back about 10 years. I started in the wine industry, worked for 2 global companies, Diageo Chateau Estate Wines and Jackson Family Wines. And through a high potential leadership cohort, I was actually introduced to this methodology. And I'm sure, many of your listeners and yourself have taken different forms of assessments, whether it's personality or quizzes or things like that. And they all have a place, but really what oftentimes is missing is, what do I do with this information, right? It's an introspective exercise that tells you about some of the things you might already intuitively know, but it kind of lacks the what do I do? How do I apply this? And our methodology really kind of is about people and process. And when I went through this training experience, it helped me better understand where my strengths were, kind of intuitively, how I like to learn, communicate, play, work, kind of everything in between. But it really allowed me to dial in how I can be a leader that people want to follow, how I can give constructive feedback that's kind of on point and objective. And, ultimately, after 20 years in the industry, I completely pivoted into the space. And what I realized over time was that I actually was a lot more passionate about the people side of the wine business than the wine side of the business. And hence joining their company about 18 months ago to really take this methodology to the masses to help individuals and teams just be happier, more satisfied, and more productive at the end of the day.
Amazing. So obviously, if starting as a customer and then transitioning into a leadership role in the company, that means a lot about the value of what the product provides. Take me a couple of steps back, and how do we quantify, or how do we measure sort of the need for something like this? So when you're thinking about elevating teams and the impact of one's understanding of our strengths and weaknesses, how can we talk about the impact and the pain point of this in a way that's actually I guess not necessarily quantifiable, but measurable in a way that, should we invest time and resources into something like this?
Yeah, well, the leadership vertical is $1 billion industry. So that alone tells me that there's quite a demand for these types of products, these types of training programs. And oftentimes, employee surveys are kind of a pulse that allow you to better understand and pinpoint, are you happy with leadership? Do you understand the vision? Are there interpersonal kind of frictions that are happening within a team? Those are kind of the basics, kind of the OG way of doing that. But there's other ways that you can monitor and evaluate the efficacy of a team. And first and foremost, is the team achieving goals? Are they working well together? Some of those things are a lot easier to diagnose than a survey. You just have to be with the team to be able to diagnose that. And ultimately, well, with a lot of our partners that we work with, we are brought in because there's something that's not working well, right? Oftentimes there's friction at a C-suite level. There's chaos related to a transformative initiative to where some groups are getting it, some groups aren't, but change management often is unwieldy and is not just happening in the right way. Other times it's more proactive, where they're trying to build proactively leadership and development programs in which they need to provide growth opportunities, which our product really allows individuals to better understand themselves and better understand the people around them.
So, and so how does that product actually work? It sounds like there's a lot of individual work that's being done through the product, but then I guess there's also integration for on a team level. But how does the product actually work from a?
Yeah, so it all starts, as I said, with the 5 dynamic starting point assessment. It's deceptively simple. In less than 3 minutes, we'll basically produce an energetic profile for an individual. Based on our research, it's 95% plus accurate in terms of individuals saying, yep, this resonates with me. But really that individual assessment is kind of the gateway to the simplified platform. And within the platform in our web app, what your profile allows you to do is actually, if you and I were working on a team, you would be able to see my profile, I'd be able to see yours. So we'd be able to explore each other's content if you choose that. And then what our kind of algorithms do is it stitches our two profiles together and it creates intuitive insights about how the two of us are going to work together. If you were my leader, or if I were your leader, we create content that kind of takes the guesswork out of collaboration. And the way that I like to kind of frame it is it operationalizes intuition. Sometimes I'm sure in your career, you've had that catastrophic blowout with a coworker that then translates to a rich moment where you're sharing, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that's where that's okay, but that sometimes requires a lot of energy and isn't necessarily the nicest experience for individuals. And so it kind of takes the guesswork out of that. It kind of upstreams a lot of that intuition. And then from a team perspective, our platform allows groups of individuals to kind of all be brought together within our system, the same saying, hey, here's your energetic preferences, here are your strengths, here are your gaps. And it allows for a lot more kind of transparent teaming when you actually can get to know the person, especially, COVID has accelerated it. We're a remote first organization. When you don't have the same human interactions and we're all via screens, you sometimes lack the EQ and emotion, triggers and things that you kind of body language and whatnot that can help you understand how a person is trying to communicate or act or collaborate with you. And so really, this product is brought in through offsites, through training programs. And because it's a SaaS-based system, you buy 12 months of access. And so effectively, you can go back to it, especially for larger teams, you're working cross-functionally. I would always kind of come into this and basically kind of go, okay, I've got this person that I'm meeting with. Here's the topic that I'm thinking about. How do they prefer to receive information so I can tailor my approach? And I think that's really at a high level, one of the kind of big tenets of Simplify is we often as leaders and as young leaders, we're leading with what we know best, which is we're leading with our strengths. But not everybody is a clone of ourselves. And when you begin to really reframe your mindset around, in order to get this diverse group of people to follow me, I actually need to tailor my approach to their preferences versus having them tailor their approach to my preferences. And that, I think, as any leader, the whole classic, it's my way or the highway, this upends that kind of longstanding kind of tenet. And through our platform, you can create as many teams as you want. And it, again, really shines a light on, here's some considerations that you need to think about as a team. Now go discuss it and create some agreements so you can kind of team better.
And it sounds like it's not just necessarily for the leaders of the organization, but I guess this is relevant for anybody in the team that everybody manages downwards and upwards and sideways. So it's really all about how do you adjust communication standards based on the strengths and weaknesses of each other, right? What you're touching on is a very fundamental part of our ability to communicate with people that are different from us.
Yeah, communication, I think, is definitely a piece of it. How you learn, we all learn differently. So if you think about the common use case of onboarding a new employee, you're probably going to write that onboarding plan based on how you want to be onboarded versus how they want to be onboarded. And so work styles, communication, learning preferences, leadership, it's all of those things. And you're exactly right. Oftentimes, executive coaching is for executives, but we feel that our product kind of helps everybody get a little bit of executive coaching, because effectively, when you're a brand new, frontline worker, or you're a brand new manager, you're exactly the person that needs the insights. But sometimes the C-suite's kind of the old dog, new tricks. Takes a little bit longer for them to open up and be open to a consideration or a different way of thinking. So different dialogues, different narratives, but effectively the product is universal. Any person that is working with another human can benefit from these insights and these tools.
Absolutely. So I guess a part of it is getting the insights and understanding reality, right? Or understanding what is the situation. But then there's the whole integration piece of, okay, how to actually put this to work as a team. So what's your take on that? How do you transition from the understandings and the key learnings, the facts, to then, okay, how do I actually now go on a journey with myself, with my team members to improve?
So oftentimes the way that we will kind of curate a learning journey for a user, right, or an organization, is really starting with, there's the basics, any foundational, what we call our fundamentals, which is really about understanding yourself, understanding each other, and then understanding team dynamics. And then, we have a number of professional services and custom workshops that really explore commonly found employee experiences. I have conflict with someone. I'm trying to implement change. I have meetings, things that happen on a recurring basis. That's where we really create these departure points for individuals to better understand what happens on a day-to-day basis, right? One of the, I think, conundrums of trainings in general is you go somewhere, you learn something, and then what happens? There's this long slide down, right? The 70-20-30 kind of rule, 70-20-10 rule, add up to 100. But what we often advocate and train into organizations and create bench strength and trainers within trainers is that you have to create these relevant departure points. You can't just talk about an individual and go, you should do this differently. You have to find common things that happen on a day-to-day basis for it to be practical and applicable. And that's where a lot of our larger clients will use kind of our whole suite of tools, not just the assessment and the platform, but this whole suite of workshops and whatnot. And that's where I think we've seen a lot of success and traction in kind of creating the there of like, okay, 6 months down the road, I actually need to go back into the system and actually find some answers because I'm having problems. And it's okay for us to be positioned as, if I have a problem, I'll call Simplify. That's okay, because to me, that creates relevance.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about you and your own journey, and a little bit about the impact that this has had on you on a personal level. So, particularly, I guess it's very powerful having gone through this experience yourself and then saying, okay, wow, I actually want to go and help and be a leader in this organization and bring this to the others. Well, what was your experience here?
So I grew up in the Napa Valley, so not far from the apple tree. I always joke if I grew up in Kansas, I'd be a high fructose corn syrup executive. But I, got a business degree, kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, went and traveled the world for 9 months. And that to me really cemented wow, people are really different, right? And that to me was kind of one of those foundations that I think really kind of continued to propel me towards the people side of any business versus the business side of the business, which again, I was definitely involved with. But through those two global companies and working for two large companies, the other kind of benefit was they had big learning and development departments. They invested in their teams. They had a lot of different types of programs that they would bring in. And so I kind of feel like I got an MBA on the street kind of experience where it was exposed to a lot of these different practices and whatnot. And, my responsibilities at both those companies was working for the direct to consumer departments, which were tasting rooms, subscription-based businesses, all the direct selling, but it was a huge team. And people, leadership was definitely, in addition to P&L ownership, was a huge piece of what I was responsible for. And I intuitively kind of knew that, through a lot of team sport experiences and other life experiences, how to kind of get people inspired about a common vision. Let's put the strategies in place and let's go out, work hard, have fun. But as a lot of speakers will often iterate, the best salesperson can't always teach somebody to sell. They just say, well, you just do it, right? It's intuitive. It's kind of within you. And so again, Five Dynamics kind of provided that language that allowed me to translate my own experience and my own strengths and really be able to get the best out of anybody else. And, you know, in the North Bay, we've had a rough go the last 5 years, right? Plus it's been wildfires, pandemics, and kind of everything else. And so, you know, in addition to just run the business stuff through all that kind of external transformative impacts, it also provided a backstop to really be able to continue to set vision, continue to instigate, you know, and inspire strategies. And kind of the analogy I always use is, what's better? If you have a rope that's on a piece on a table and you want to get it from point A to point B, you could push it, but you might crank the rope and you might not necessarily end it at the same, or you can pull it across the table. And I've always felt like from a leadership practice, how can you pull an organization towards an end goal versus push them? Because pulling to me means you're getting people to follow. Pushing means you might get them there, but you might blow through your capital. You might have, you know, attrition, and it might not be a culture that's sustainable to really achieve what you want to do.
Absolutely. If you're looking a little bit down the line, you know, a couple of years into the future, where do you see this space heading? Do you see new technologies being able to empower this work to be done in more meaningful ways? For example, everything we've been seeing with artificial intelligence. Do you see an evolution in the research or in the understanding of how to do this work better or more effective? Where are we heading here?
So I was at a conference a few months ago at the Stanford Research Institute that was all about AI. And, you know, a fascinating conference to be at, both in terms of the history of the Stanford Research Institute, in terms of the mouse and many other, you know, amazing technological advancements and innovations. And I was expecting to hear a ton of conversations around the technical side, and there was. But what was also really being discussed was this kind of concept of, even if you're going to offboard coding to an AI tool, a human still has to proof it. A human still has to take it and go walk into the boardroom and physically present something and influence something. So while we're in this kind of hype curve of AI where it's going to solve everything, I think we're forgetting that there's still a human element that's so critical, whether it's proofing and validating what spits out of an AI tool is valid and accurate. But I think, again, it's really around soft skills as it's been kind of historically classified, which is really more around like emotional intelligence. Soft skills are becoming hard skills, and hard skills are becoming commoditized by AI. And so to me, the way that I kind of see this is that EQ and emotional intelligence and all the things around empathy and understanding another human's experience and being able to communicate effectively, that's what makes us human. And I think that's standing out now. And I think there's a chorus of thought leaders that are continuing to talk about, yeah, great that you're focused on AI, but don't forget about your people. There was a quote in one of the slides that was kind of got a chuckle, but I think was very accurate, which was, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by somebody who's using AI. And I thought that really resonated. And that to me is something that we're definitely thinking about in terms of our product roadmap and how to appropriately integrate, these tools that have really democratized in certain respects the entry level. 5 years ago, it took $1 million just to get into the game. Now it's like a subscription and you can open source code and you can go a lot faster. So we're really excited about the possibilities of what that can do for our product. Okay. And like I said, our, kind of North Star vision is everybody should have an executive coach. Everybody should have a safe ecosystem where they can ask hard questions or ask reflective questions that allow them to better understand themselves and or how to navigate a situation. That shouldn't just be for the C-suite. Everybody should have access to that confidant, if you will, that can help them through fill in the blank situation.
I absolutely stand behind that vision and behind that need. Tyler, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Continue making positive impacts all around with Simplify, and really a great conversation and very, very thought-provoking. So thank you very, very much. And Best of luck.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you.